LEGO 2025 is wrapping up. All of the new sets have been announced, they've been released, and we're heading into 2026. LEGO's announcing some of those sets, and of course, the rumor mill is running rampant about what we're going to be seeing starting in January. But before we get all that stuff out there, I wanted to sit down and have a fun exercise of predicting what I think we might see in certain areas of LEGO in 2026. Now, these predictions are not going to be based on rumors that I've heard. There are some rumors out there, and I'm going to stay clear of making my predictions based off of those. Instead, I want to maybe use some past history and maybe some gaps in the LEGO lineup and some other things, intuitions, to make some predictions. I don't know if these are going to turn out. I don't know if, anything is going to be right about these, but I think it's fun to kind of speculate and maybe put a little bit of a prediction out there to see if anything comes true. So let's dive in with our first prediction, and that's going to be with the CMF line. That's right, the collectible minifigs. Now we know that January we're getting the animal costumes for the collectible minifigs, and there are rumors that in May we'll get a more typical collectible minifig series. So what I want to do is start there with that collectible minifig series and make a prediction as to one of the minifigs that we're going to be seeing. I think we're going to get a medieval or castle minifig, which in and of itself is not a crazy prediction. However, what I think we might end up with is not a collectible minifig based off of any of the new factions that LEGO delivered for Castle fans in 2025. Rather, I think we're going to see a remake. And if I look through all of the remakes that we've had of the Castle lines from the 1980s and 1990s, one that is missing is the Black Knights. Now, LEGO gave us a Dragon Knight with the Magisto's Workshop gift with purchase, but they've skipped over the Black Knight. And it's interesting because in one of the Black Friday gifts with purchase, the Mini Knights Castle, one of the castles they remade in micro scale form was the Black Knights Castle. And we don't have a Black Knights minifig to go with that. So I'm going to just speculate, I'm going to predict that we're going to see that Black Knights minifig remade for the, I guess maybe series 29 or whatever it is, collectible minifig series. Now, what is that knight going to look like? I'm going to drill down. That's right. I'm going to give you some specific predictions because I might be partially right and partially wrong, and quite honestly, I'd be okay with that. I think we might get, and hope that we get, the classic White Knight remade. That's the White Knight from the Black Knights Castle. It's one of the most heavily sought after minifigs from the classic era of Castle, and it's got these beautiful plumes and this wonderful shield and a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily common even back in 1992 when it was released. It kind of introduced some new parts with the plumage. I think we might get that. That would be a lovely remake, and I'm hoping that LEGO does that. So that's my prediction with the CMF line and in 2026. Staying on that line, I'm going to now move on to Castle, because I think that we are going to see some interesting things come for Castle in 2026. And no, I'm not talking about the Bricklink Designer Program, even though that is going to give us some interesting things. I take a look at what is currently available with the Castle sets, and I see we've got the Creator 3-in-1 Horse Knights Castle, and we have the Creator 3-in-1 Medieval Dragon. The Lion Knights Castle and Medieval Town Squares are retiring in 2025 here at the end of the year. We know that the Lion Knights Castle is sold out. We know that there's not really anything out there in terms of rumors for Castle, but I'm going to predict that we will see a brand new Icons Castle in 2026. Now, what do I base this off of? Well, we do have those two sets retiring. We don't have a lot of Castle stuff for the new minifigs factions that LEGO released in 2025, right? We have the Horse Knights Castle, but we're missing anything substantive for the Griffin Knights and the Kraken Knights, with both of which came in the minifig dispensers, and then the Snake Knights, which we received one in the Horse Knights Castle. So I tend to think we're going to get something for one of those factions. I also believe that we're probably not going to get a Snake Knights faction quite yet. What's that based off of? I don't know. I just don't see it happening. Just my gut impression. So it's not really based on evidence. But I do think we're more likely to see Kraken and Griffin Knights, because the Griffin Knights are very regal and the Kraken, I think, are very interesting. And the Kraken Knights would allow LEGO to go maybe a different color scheme route, maybe a different, very different architectural style from the Lion Knights Castle. Along those lines, if we do get a castle, I predict that it will look significantly different than the Lion Knights Castle. I say this because I don't think LEGO wants to just recreate the wheel. The Lionites Castle did a great job, I think, of recreating castle architecture and mocks. A lot of people created new extensions to that, and they adopted, the double curved slopes at the top of the battlements, the way that LEGO did the arrow slits in the Lionites Castle. So I think we're going to see something different come out of this castle. The Kraken Knights, I think, would definitely allow that to happen with a different color scheme for the castle and maybe different, maybe wood elements brought into things. I also think the Griffin Knights would allow some of that with maybe more red details, and they could definitely do something with that, maybe using pyramid slopes on top of battlements, or maybe the triangle, 1x1 triangle slope. So I think we're going to see something with castle. It's going to be big. I'd say $300 to $400 US price range. It's going to be significant, and it's going to come out sometime after March of 2026. I'm forgetting the year all of a sudden. So that's what I'm thinking for that. Now, I also want to make sure that I highlight that I don't believe that we're going to see anything Bricklink Designer Program related interfere with the release of this castle. I know a lot of people say, well, we can get castle stuff through the BDP, and that's fine. Bricklink Designer Program Series 8 is giving us the Dustmark Castle, which is going to be interesting. Series 7 and 9 are giving us more civilian medieval life sets through the Alchemist Shop and the Sleepy Dragon Inn. Forgot the name of that one. And I think that's going to be okay. LEGO has released plenty of Bricklink Designer Program Series castles while the Lionites Castle and Medieval Town Square were available on store shelves. So I don't think there's going to be any interference when it comes to that. We are going to talk about Lord of the Rings and modular buildings in just a moment, but I want to get into the DC or Marvel modular series that we've seen over the last few years and make a prediction related to that. Now, I believe that we are going to get another one of those sets in 2026 based on the fact that we've had a number of those sets come out in each year over the last handful of years. So I think we're going to get one. Do I think it's going to be Marvel or DC? I'm going to stick with DC. I think LEGO opened up that can of worms, if you will, for 2025 with the release of the Arkham Asylum. I think they're going to continue with that in 2026. Now, what is that building going to be? Well, can't help but notice that the Daily Bugle is retiring very soon, and there's going to be a gap in the skyscraper business, if you will, for LEGO, Marvel, or DC modular buildings. So I predict that we are going to get a Daily Planet modular building from LEGO in 2026. I think it's going to be tan. I think it's going to have, like black windows or something like that. And I think it's going to do a pretty good job of replacing the height of the Daily Bugle. I think it's going to be a little bit more brick built instead of the panel built like we see with the windows of the Daily Bugle. But I definitely anticipate that it's going to be significant in size, and it wouldn't shock me if it was around that $350 to $400 range. It's going to be massive. I also think, I'm going to make just another prediction here, that the minifigs for that, so I'm not going to predict like all the minifigs, but I do think it's going to be more of a return to what we saw with the Daily Bugle and the Avengers Tower in terms of the quantity of minifigs. I'm looking 20 plus minifigs in this particular set. Again, do I have any rumors for this? Not at all. Do I think we're going to get it? Maybe, maybe not, but I got to make a prediction somewhere, and I'm going to go with the Daily Planet 20 plus minifigs, $350 to $400 US. We'll see if I end up being right on that. But now I want to move on to modular buildings, and we'll end up with Lord of the Rings. Now, in terms of modular buildings, we already have rumors for the 2026 modular building, and that's going to be a furniture store with a music shop. And so the way I see that planning out is it's going to be a straight building with a larger furniture store section and a small music shop, probably records and microphones and things like that. That's going to be maybe 10 to 12 studs wide on the base plate. I'm not going to make a ton of predictions when it comes to that because the rumor is out there, and I think it would be a pretty weak prediction to say like we're going to get what everyone's talking about for 2026. Instead, I'm going to move ahead to 2027 modular building, and that I'm going to predict is going to be a straight building. It's going to be in the lineage of the way that LEGO has arranged their classic modular building rotation, corner, straight, corner. We had a corner in 2025, with the Tudor corner. We have a straight building coming up, presumably with the furniture store and music shop. And then in 2027, we would get another straight building before getting a corner building in 2028. So that's kind of how that's going to work. Now, in terms of what that is going to be, are we going to get a particular style? Are we going to get a particular shop? Here's what I'm going to predict. That it's not only going to be a straight building, but that unlike the Tudor corner and presumably what we're going to get in 2026, it is going to be one facade. So it's going to be 132 width building. And it is going to be either a school or a medical building, like a hospital or something like that. And again, do I have any information on that? No, I don't. But I do think that when you look at the Lego modulars, Lego likes to give us a lot of modular buildings that have multiple facades on them, just because it breaks up the build, but occasionally they will give us one that has that full length facade. And the last time we saw that was with the Natural History Museum, and that would be a few years ago by the time we get to 2027. So I think that that's what we're going to look like in the modular series in 2027. Of course, we are eagerly awaiting any sort of announcement and additional rumors for the 2026 modular building. So if you like modular buildings, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that way you get all of our breakdowns for the new modular review. And of course, we are going to put it next to all of the other modular buildings that Lego has designed since 2007 to see how it looks and how it might pair in your modular city. So make sure you subscribe again for that. The last one I'm going to talk about is Lord of the Rings. I think this is going to be an interesting one in 2026 because I know a lot of people have said, oh yeah, we're definitely getting Minas Tirith, and that's what the rumors say. So my prediction is not going to be that we're getting Minas Tirith. I'd like to do two things when it comes to my predictions for Lord of the Rings in 2026 from Lego. And the first one is, what is Minas Tirith going to look like? And then the second one is going to be, what else do we see in addition to Minas Tirith? So I do think Minas Tirith is going to be more minifig scale in keeping with what we saw with Bag End, Barad-dûr, and Rivendell. I also think that we are going to get Minas Tirith that's going to be shorter than Barad-dûr, but it might end up being wider in some ways. It's going to be wider at the base and then tapered up maybe a little bit to account for the different layers of Minas Tirith. But I think it's pretty well established that Barad-dûr is the tallest structure in Middle-earth. And I think the Lego set designers of Barad-dûr acknowledged that. So they had to make it taller than Orthanc in terms of what the Lego set looked like, but it's still not to scale. So I think because of that, it's not going to be to scale Barad-dûr to Minas Tirith. Rather, I think it's going to be probably close to the same height as Orthanc, just slightly shorter than Barad-dûr to keep that consistent, even though the scale is going to be a little bit off when you compare the two of them. I also think that we are going to get quite a few minifigs, but there are probably going to be some minifigs that we hope are going to be there that we're not going to get. Now, there are different rumors about which minifigs we are possibly going to see in the Minas Tirith set, so I'm not going to delve too deeply into that. But I do think it's going to be a pretty substantial set, and it may be the most expensive Lord of the Rings set of all time. Now, what else will we get in addition to Minas Tirith? Well, if you notice that Lego has, since they released the year of Rivendell, they've released brickheads or a book nook. Last year, it was the book nook, which I was not terribly impressed with. The Sherlock Holmes book nook was much better than the Balrog and Gandalf book nook. But I do think we are going to get more brickheads in 2026. If you take a look at the current offerings or what Lego has offered since 2023, we have Frodo and Gollum, we have Arwen and Aragorn, Gimli and Legolas, and Gandalf and the Balrog. We're missing one key pairing, and that I think is Merry and Pippin. Now, I think there are going to be some other characters that they could put in there. They could do Boromir and Faramir brickheads. I think that'd be really interesting, but I do think Merry and Pippin make the most sense in terms of getting the original Fellowship out there. And they were such close friends that it looks like Lego likes to do some of these pairings that make sense, and that's one that's missing. I could see a way in which Lego says we're going to do Merry, Pippin, and Samwise in the same brickheads pack. That'd be great, but I do think we're going to see Merry and Pippin in 2026. So those are my predictions for Lego in the areas of collectible minifigs, castle, modulars, DC modulars, and Lord of the Rings in 2026. Now, I think there are definitely some things I got wrong in there, but I am curious to see if I got anything right, and I hope to revisit this in a year to see what I got right and to celebrate some of those things. I think if we get even half of those, it would be really, really cool. Let me know what you are predicting for Lego in 2026, particularly in these themes, in the comments down below. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and always remember to keep building together.